What's up, everyone? We are here again. You know what that means. They let us get to Friday again. So last week was a pretty interesting one, wasn't it? It was all about the apparent cylinders or things underneath the pyramids. And I think that, judging from the comments I read anyways, that people had a lot of their own theories. And I thought that was really cool. A lot of the stuff that I read in the comments I never even heard of or considered. And I was going to put them in the video here, but I completely lost them. It was some updated scans from that same area, and it just kind of reinforced the fact that there is something underneath the pyramid. What it is, we likely won't know until we're somehow able to somehow dig down underneath, if you can even do that. I don't know how fragile the pyramids are. But if I find out anything more about it, I'll definitely make an episode of the podcast or even just make a video about it. But for this episode, I thought that I would do something that I haven't done in quite a while, and that is kind of put together all the little tidbits and small stories that don't really fit into any topic for a video. So in this video, there's going to be a lot of these, and there's going to be a lot of me asking you what you think is going on here. And there's going to be no set topic for these. There's going to be a wide variety of a bunch of stuff. So let's get into it. This is really the only paranormal experience that I can recall. When I was 14, I was sleeping in my room. My room has a massive sliding glass door/window, so I can see outside fairly well. I dreamed that I have walked out on the balcony and I'm looking down on a large patch of pavement that's in front of my house. A pale figure, has the proportions of a 10-month-old baby, is standing outside. It's dressed in gray-blue clothes and looks like it wears kabuki makeup. It's just looking at me, straight in the eye, doing nothing. And then suddenly I wake up. I'm facing this glass door, and this figure is still there. For a brief moment, before I can spring up out of bed, I see a skinny hand with a feminine palm, but fingers 3 times longer than mine. It pulls away from the window and disappears behind the wall. The skin was the color of well-done steak. It didn't scare me probably as much as it should have, but to this day, I have no real explanation for it. So what do you think that was? Do you think that it was your typical kind of crawler encounter? But in this case, it seemed to have got into his dream. Or do you think that his mind was aware of what was going on, and that's just how it, processed it into his head while he was sleeping? Either way, I know that if I had a really creepy dream like that and I woke up and the thing was, or some variation of the thing, was just standing in my window, I'd probably freak out. But of course, you let me know what you would do down in the comments. Would you spring out of bed and charge at the thing? Would you be scared? Or would you fire at it? Would you do nothing and just want it to go? Let me know down below. And this one right here is one that I always wanted to include in a video, but I never really knew where to include it. It's a bus driver from Bulgaria. I suppose I could have put it in the Eastern Europe video, but sometimes in my emails I forget things are there, and every now and then I have a screenshot from a long time ago and I forget about that. You know how it is. But anyways, here it is. It's from 2006. At one of my jobs, I met this Eastern European guy. I don't remember his name now, but he was a bus driver in Bulgaria. During our time together, we talked about a lot of things, and sometimes we would get talking about creepy things that have happened to us. And being a bus driver, he had a lot of creepy stories, but this is one that stuck out. Supposedly one day he was on a trip from Pazarjik to Shumen, southwest to northeast basically. On the way there, he tried to take a shortcut off the motorway across a small road that led to a place called Rositsa. Keep in mind that this was the evening, so it was starting to get dark. Basically, it's just this tiny farming village, and at the time he had no passengers, so he was able to take that shortcut. He decides to listen to the radio. He turns on the radio. Usually, he gets a very clear signal out here, but this time, nothing. It's just static. And then suddenly, he sees someone or something inside of a truck that's parked next to the road. The truck wasn't on. There were no lights. Nothing. It was just parked there. And as he got closer, it became more and more apparent that whatever was trying to get into the truck or was rummaging around wasn't human, and it wasn't someone's pet either. It looked like it was intelligent and looking for something specific. The guy couldn't describe it that well. He said it was a very gaunt and creepy figure. Apparently, it stopped and stared at him. The figure had yellow eyes that glinted in the lights of his bus. And then, as he drove past it, a voice came on his radio. It was very far off. He couldn't make it out. And that's basically it. He passed the truck and made sure to haul ass wherever he was going. He went back to that village a few days later with one of his friends. The truck was gone, and no one seemed to live at the farm there. All this, even though there were livestock in the field. But all the houses seemed empty and in disrepair. So definitely, what the hell do you think was going on there? Do you think that whatever this man saw had done something to the family? Do you think that it was maybe some kind of twisted version of one of the spirits that used to live there? And I bring that second part up because I've heard stories over the years anyways of spirits of people that appear as not looking like themselves. They can appear as some kind of twisted version of themselves or a perverted version. It's all in kind of how they died, or maybe if they're stuck in between, how they're feeling and how those emotions manifest. But again, do you think that it was some kind of cryptid? And where did the truck go? And if it was a cryptid, what kind of cryptid was this? Was it another crawler? Was it something else? This was in Bulgaria, so I'm not sure of the local folklore based on things like that. But I know that Eastern European folklore is often very terrifying, so they probably have a name for something like that. It's crazy too how some folklore from anywhere in the world can range so much too. It'll range from oh, these are little tiny spirits that just kind of play basic pranks, or maybe they'll leave flowers out for you if you give them mushrooms. And then there's another being called the Smitska or something, and it's a tall, gaunt, skeletal being that takes children at night. So of course, what do you think happened here? Once again, let me know down in the comments. And now here I have some really short ones. This one says, when I was 11 years old, I was living in a duplex with my mother. At this time, we had lived there for 4 years. Nothing really happened for me to be scared of anything in this place. Mom goes out with her friends for the night. She won't be home until tomorrow. My older cousin, who was babysitting me, was sleeping downstairs. I woke up because I heard creaking in the hallway. Nothing was going on, so I figured that since I was awake, I would go down and get a glass of water. So as I leave my bedroom and start going down the hallway, I see a figure standing in the hallway. It looks just like my mom. It's just standing there. I stare at it for a few seconds. I finally call out to it, "Mom, you're not supposed to be home till tomorrow." The figure turns around and looks like my mom, but has pits for eyes. The creature smiles and then disappears into a cloud of smoke. This is the only paranormal experience I've ever had in my life. I still have no explanation for it. And this next one, I'll actually tell one of mine that's very similar to this after I tell this one. So this happened many years ago when I was 12. We were at the school park, and it was just coming on the evening. I was with my nephew, who was 3. I think we were playing in the sandbox. After a while, I just kind of space out while he goes off and does 3-year-old things. After a while, he calls me over, saying he wants to show me something. When I get over there, he says, "Uncle, come play with the monster." I said, "What?" And then my nephew said, "Monster, he won't play with me." And then suddenly, something grabs onto my leg and pulls me down to the ground. I immediately freak out, grab my nephew, and run back to my sister and mom. And now, I have a story that's sort of similar to this, only nothing happened to me. Nothing pulled me to the ground or anything. It was just something my little nephew said that was really creepy. I won't get too much into detail, but there was some things happening at my sister's house, and things were getting a little kind of rowdy, I guess we'll put it that way. And I was just there doing a regular saging of the property. And as I was going around the property line, kind of doing my thing, getting in the mode of what you're doing and all that, I go around this one part of the property. The sage bundle begins to puff out, and suddenly burns appear on my arm. And these burns weren't just from the cinders of the sage, because they were on my other arm than the one I was carrying the sage with. And then I stopped there for a second. I did a little bit of a prayer, and then I kept on going. And just as I got done, my nephew, who was at the time maybe 3 or 5, one of them, he was 3 or 5, he comes up to me and he just says, "You got rid of the woman with no eyes." Now, as the title of this podcast episode suggests, I definitely went, "Nope." And I didn't say that to him. I just continued to be calm. But on the inside, I was like, holy shit. So let me know if any one of you has had a nephew or a cousin or just someone younger than you, like a kid, maybe if you're a teacher, a student, that just said something really off the wall creepy, and then something happened. Because another time, I don't remember exactly if I'm pretty sure it was a cousin. Small areas, you get kind of confused with who's your cousin and who's not. But in this small area, I think that they said something similar, but it wasn't, "He won't play with the monster." It was, "Come over here and see this." And when I went over, there was nothing there. So I thought that he was talking about an imaginary friend. So he I don't know, said something. And then the chair that he was pointing to just moved across the floor on its own. It only moved about 4 inches, but still. Shit's creepy when it just kind of happens out of nowhere like that. And better yet, I would like to know what he was seeing from his point of view. Was there something there or not? Anyways, let me know if you had any experience like this down in the comments. And here's another one that you definitely would not want to happen to you. When I was just a kid, I was going to my aunt's mansion way outside the city. It was in the middle of nowhere, basically. We all had a great time at their house, and I don't remember all the details of everything we did. But as time goes on, you get tired, especially me as a kid, so I went to bed quite early. I wake up in the middle of the night. It had to be 3 a.m. or so. I heard my aunt calling my name softly, so I go outside the room. I hear it once again, still softly. I end up following it all the way downstairs, and eventually, even outside the front door. I follow the voice all the way to the backyard, and then to this kind of cellar storm door that leads to a huge creepy basement. Once I get down those stairs, instead of the door, it's open, and standing in the doorway is a huge, tall, black figure. It was so tall that it barely fit the doorway. I turned around, ran up the stairs, screaming and crying. I got back in the house, up the stairs, and hid underneath the bed. The next morning, I tell my aunt what happened. She's troubled by this. She tells me that she wasn't even there last night. She was in town with friends, and not only that, she has a security system that's supposed to trigger whenever anything goes in the backyard after a certain time of night. I don't know what it was, but that thing, whatever it was, spirit, shadow person, whatever, It haunted my nightmares for years. And this one that I want to end off on is just more kind of funny. Nothing scary happens in this. It would still give you near a heart attack, but it's just kind of a little funny thing. So, when I was around 11 or 12, I was playing Call of Duty. My room is on the second floor, but there's this kind of roof thing that goes up to below my window. Sometimes in the warmer months, I used to climb out my window and just sit there and look at the stars. This particular night, I had my window open. I have a desk that kind of sits really close to this window, and there was a bag of chips that was leaned up against the window frame. At some point, when I'm playing the game with my headphones on, I hear a cooing noise. I think, that's really weird. That's not part of the game. I take my headphones off, and when I look over, I see this tiny hand reaching into the chip bag and taking out a chip. I spin the rest of the way around and see a raccoon right outside of my window. I scream. The raccoon seems to scream as well. We both scared the hell out of each other. The raccoon took the chip and ran off. So I got a bit of a chuckle out of that last one. I hope you did too. And of course, if you liked this episode of the podcast, be sure to like and subscribe. And if you would like to donate to the channel, there's super thanks and memberships here on YouTube, as well as PayPal and Patreon, if you'd like to do it that way. And with all of that, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast. If I learn anything else about the pyramid stuff, I'll definitely bring it up in a future episode. And if I find anything like that again, I'll be sure to talk about it. I'm currently reading through an article by Marcus Louth, who was talking about encounters with giants in antiquity and even more recently. So maybe that'll show up in another episode soon. But until then, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the one Wednesday, and I hope you'll enjoy the one Sunday. So as always, thank you for pulling up a stump. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. And if you have an April birthday like me, let me know down in the comments. I'll catch you in the next one.